Today, I'm going to attempt something that never has been attempted by any other Paradox content creator before. Restore Byzantium. I know, crazy. But jokes aside, I gave myself a few unique challenges to spice things up. So, let's talk about these challenges. Challenge number 1. My Twitch chat has control over the government, depending on the current distribution of power law. How that exactly works, I will explain later along the way. Challenge number 2. I have to unite Byzantium. I know, crazy. Challenge number 3. I have to remove the Ottomans from the map until the end of the game. That means no provinces left for them. And challenge number 4. I have to become number 1 great power in the world. And because I like to do it, I'll add a secret challenge. What that exactly is, you will see later. So, with all of these challenges set, let's jump into the playthrough. Today, Greece, game rules I remain on because I like suffering more than I like fun. The start as Greece in Victoria 3 is very different to most other European nations, because your first reflex in this game is to build stuff so your economy can grow. With Greece, this doesn't work, because if you start doing that as Greece, it will end up bad. Let me explain. The starting economy of Greece is, how can I put this, not good. So trying to build something from the start will empty your starting coffers so fast that you can't even finish the first project without going bankrupt. So after my 5th bankruptcy, I decided to change my approach and just build nothing. This amazingly just works, and let me focus on more important matters like military research, where our current approach with musket line goes is kind of outdated. A few years of research and diplomacy later, my military was reformed and my relations with the great powers of Europe were higher than ever. So the time for our first reconquest has come. Our first target? The kind neighbor to our north, who is currently owning a core province of ours. This province has a lot of suppressed Greek people and, even more importantly, a clothing factory in it, which will be important to jumpstart our economy. Because you know what they say, you don't need to build factories if you liberate them. But starting a war is always a gamble in Victoria 3, but we can push the luck a bit more to our side by improving the relations with the great powers around us. And also helping is the fact that the Ottomans are very unpopular at the start of the game, so the improved relations in combination with our reformed military should make this a quick victory. Should. I started the diplomatic play and hoped for the best. The Austrians actually wanted to join my side, so that was great news. Together we could crush the outdated Ottoman army. But then the worst happened. The British joined the side of the Ottomans. The best military force at the start of the game was now on the enemy side. Bad. At this point, I thought about doing what every reasonable player would do in my position. But something told me I should at least try. So defeating the Ottomans slowly wouldn't work anymore, because the British troops would arrive over time and overrun me. A new plan was needed. So, let me tell you the story about the Frontline Wizard. He's a balanced in-game feature that works wonders in war. Let me explain what I mean. Every time a frontline gets merged or split apart, there's a chance that not all troops will be reassigned to the bordering frontlines and instead reset to their home base. Why? I don't know. This means, if I rush down the enemy forces fast enough and divide the front lines in the Balkans multiple times, I might have a chance that the British troops never really arrive, making themselves useless as an ally. The plan was set, the war started, and luck was on my side. I was able to push the Ottomans way faster back than I thought I would, putting the war goal under my firm control. At the end, the frontline was so much chaos, I even reached Constantinople with this tactic and won this war. Basically, in this timeline, Greece in the year 1841 invented the Blitzkrieg with cannons and skirmish infantry. Based. You might ask yourself now, Florius, why didn't you just demand more provinces? And I have to tell you, the answer is quite easy. I'm stupid. I literally forgot. In the case of the British joining, I was so much on alert, I just forgot to add more war goals, which was not wise. But now with the province back in our firm and capable hands, we can lean back and enjoy the peace. The economy was a bit more stable again, but still, it wasn't even close to a functioning one that we could industrialize with. I waited for the truce to pass, improved even more relations, and continued to focus on military research. Years passed and the truce was over. At this point, I could have declared another Reconquest war if I would have taken the time to research nationalism. Why that? Because Greece doesn't start with claims on all the Greek provinces. Researching nationalism triggers an event that gives you an option to claim all provinces with your culture, which makes coring them easier, because you don't need to core them. But we don't have time for this nonsense. This time, I didn't even have to fight. I know, boring. This will take a while. And they just gave in. They just gave me the one province. You know what? I'm not going to say no to free land. The next few years were just rinse and repeat. Wait a little, declare normal war, and get free land, because the Ottomans are, thanks God, not very liked by other great powers. While this was going on, I researched nationalism, because waiting for military tech was now Not so much worth it. And what would be Greece without a touch of nationalism? Now with their homeland united, the time to embrace the megali idea has come. And because my economy was bad, I decided to suck up to the British and join their market. Why did I do that? Because the British have every good you could think of in huge amounts in the market. This might be a side effect of controlling 1/3 of the globe. The great thing about this is that I don't have to micromanage imports and exports anymore and just get everything from the British. Amazing. This also boosted my economy, because thanks to this access, my factories also could operate now in way more efficient work modes, allowing me to tax even more of their profits. We're building at full capacity, which is not a lot, but and we make a profit. How about that? It kind of felt wrong to play Greece and not have a red number hovering over our economy anymore. With the economy on the rise and the standard of living being higher than ever, the Greek people were happy. But I wasn't. Because even though my nation was prosperous, I knew I had to sacrifice it for further expansion. We still had so much land to conquer, and the Ottomans made further expansion not easy. And I don't say this because the Ottomans started to have a good army or great power started to help them. No. I say this because I started to always give in to my first demand before the war could even start. Why is this bad? Because I added so much more demands. Meaning I got a lot of infamy for war goals I couldn't even push anymore. Because if the attacked nation gives in to your demands, you only get the initial war goal. This back and forth of me attacking and him just giving in went along a few more times. So much infamy wasted, every time. After a while, I had enough. A change in strategy was needed. At this moment, my chat pointed out that I could just puppet them and annex them afterwards, meaning I could annex the entire Ottoman Empire in 2 wars. Pork. But all of these small wars had one upside. I was able to conquer all the Greek land I needed to form Byzantium. This actually meant that I had my first mission completed. Now I only had to survive Chet's government decisions, conquer all of the Ottomans that's left, and become #1 great power. What could go wrong? Now, with no more time to waste, I started the crisis to puppet the Ottomans as soon as I could, and got a free Ottoman vassal. That was easier than I thought it would be. They literally just gave in. Oh, the Ottoman Empire is now a part of us. Continuing this lucky streak, I did the same with the Egyptians, and they also just craved in and became a puppet. Ah yes, conquest is hard. I guess they're just afraid of our superior Greek army. Or their allies. Maybe it's my allies. I learned at this point that being in a custom union makes you something of a puppet yourself. And even worse, this also meant an inability to integrate our puppets. I imagine there's some weird coding behind this, where we're technically a puppet of the British, but not really. Because, you know. But this wasn't even close to being our main problem, because if you remember from before, I stockpiled a bit of infamy, and puppeting 2 small nations like the Ottomans and Egypt increased that infamy just a bit more. Now we should chill a little bit, cause our infamy is a little bit high. The consequences were a lot of dismantling wars against my nation, but thanks to my focus on military tech, I won. I crushed the great powers of Europe and got to keep the land. The side effect of this was that the British decided to remove me from the customs union, which led to a small economic collapse that I didn't even notice thanks to being busy with a world war. Great Britain embargoed me. What? Okay, that is my opium gone. But the upside of this was that we needed to leave the market anyway. So this was more of a ripping the bandage off fast so it doesn't hurt as much situation. Just a bit more involuntarily. And thanks to all of this chaos, I was even able to take over Wallachia and fulfill a basic human right for oil. Maybe I am America of this timeline. With our borders now secured, we now had time to reform our government and fix the economy. Talking about the government, because I promised it earlier, let me explain how the amazing system I came up with works. Basically, the power of Chet over my government was dependent on the current distribution of power law, with every law giving the Chet different ways to influence the government. So let's start with autocracy. It's pretty straightforward. I have full control over the laws and Chet can just watch. Oligarchy gives my subscribers full control over the laws, but in a chaotic way, because there will be no polls. Just people saying what they want, and I'm also open to bribes and donations with bits. Landed voting is the first step towards a real democracy, because there will be a poll on every law change, but once again, only my subscribers are allowed to vote, so it's still a very limited democracy. Well, voting allows all chat members to vote in polls, but people can use their channel points to get more votes. Census suffrage again allows all chat members to vote in polls, but people can still bribe me to get channel points involved. And universal suffrage means real elections, polls on every change with no way to rig the outcome. And anarchy, honestly, I don't even know what would happen then. And now that I listed you all the different ways chat could theoretically influence the government, let me show you the actual result. It never changed once. We started as an oligarchy and we ended as one. And I promise, it's not my fault. I tried. I really tried. If you want to change something, subscribers, here you can. But it turns out that people are unwilling to give up the power they hold over others. I know, crazy. So basically, after getting the oil province, I've become a modern authoritarian state. Bro. But, to give my chat not the worst of looks, they actually did a great job reforming the nation, pushing through things like free speech, universal healthcare, and full workers' protection. So basically, everything that doesn't involve taking away their power from them. And because my editing is so fast, this playthrough has been played in the old patch. So playing as a democratic nation makes it very easy to reform without a risk of a civil war. Because back then, parties that were in the government couldn't go radical. They changed it now. Very sad. With the economy still in a very special state, time to fix it was needed. And my plan to get it fixed is quite straightforward. Build up an industry with the cash reserves we have that can produce everything that we got from the British up to this point. And because we had a semi-decent construction industry, this worked out quite well. There were only a few problems with resources that I couldn't produce locally or import because they were rare colonial resources. Why do I call them rare? Because AI tends to not build up mines and farms that produce them. On paper, there would be more than enough in the world, but what can I say? Relying on AI is never a good plan. I think they fixed it now, or at least made it better. But it's still pretty bad. Some of these rare resources, like opium, we can get by integrating Egypt, but others are just not within our current borders. So you might have already guessed it, but the answer to this problem is to become a colonial nation ourselves. This way, we have no reliance on the AI and can produce as much of these resources as we need, and even export them ourselves. Step 1 to become a colonial power is to get the right law passed, which meant for me to get it past 2 instances. My chat and the amazing in-game dice roll system. And if you think that was a lot of work, I actually have to disappoint you this time around. My chat was very willing to get this law passed, mostly because it didn't take away any power from them. And the game was also very merciful and passed the law in a very reasonable amount of time. The second step now was to find a target to colonialize. I came late to the party, so Africa wasn't an option anymore, but the East Indies were still partially free for grabbings. So I took over a few islands, but this wouldn't be enough in the long run, so further expansion was still needed. But this time expansion would only be possible through conquest. And because I didn't want to fight another European power, I looked for a rich native potential puppet. Why a puppet? Because I'm not doing this entire Ottoman thing again. I decided to target Siam, because the nation has rubber and other resources that our nation demands, so it was a perfect fit for our needs. This brings me to my most beloved feature of the entire game: naval landings. Because with no real land border, this was the only way to get there. So, why do I say I love this so much? Because it's like gambling, just worse. Every landing could randomly win, fail, disappear, or even worse, you land with 2 open front lines, get immediately pushed out, because taking an army to the other side of the world takes months. Wait. My way of solving this is to send 2 naval landings to get double the chance of a successful naval landing. Is it stupid? Yes. Does it work? Yes. Mostly. After a few failed attempts, I got a naval landing to work and was able to support my landed troops with the rest of my army, securing my military success swiftly. We were now indirectly in control of provinces that will secure the prosperity of our nation, and in a few years from now we will be able to directly annex them. In the meantime, I was able to integrate the Ottomans and the Egyptians into our nation, which gave me direct control over their land. This led to a few annoying uprisings, but nothing too special. Most importantly, I was able to build the Suez Channel to make access to our colonies easier. This was expensive, but also worth every pound. Following the completion, the French asked me to buy the channel off of me with monthly payments, which of course is something no one would ever agree to, because the strategic value of the channel is way higher than any money could pay for. But me, being the genius that I am, didn't really read the message and thought they wanted to pay for access through the channel, so I agreed to the terms. Oh, they want to go to the Suez Channel. Sure, yeah, pay me. Once I noticed my mistake, it was already too late. Wait, what? I sold them the Suez Channel. The channel was now French. I can't imagine a worse fate. I love you, my French viewers. Me acting reasonably did the only thing any sane ruler would do in this situation. De-escalating the situation by declaring an immediate Reconquest war. This war was brutal, because the French were at the same military tech as I was. It was so intense, it crashed my game 2 times. You can guess what happened. Crazy. In the end, I was able to get the channel back under my control. And I learned that the payments from the French didn't stop after all of this. I still get the Suez Channel payments. And I get the diplomatic payments of 150k. I love it. Low taxes for everyone. The French are paying the taxes this year around. Now, with all of this chaos dealt with, let's talk about something I still owe you. The secret challenge. So, what could be so special that I didn't want to talk about it until now? Taking over our old capital city. Rome. This of course being a double task now, but being nearly impossible a few years ago. We now had the navy, army and economy to risk such a conflict. Because as I said earlier, every upcoming war in this game is a massive dice roll that could drastically fire backwards. Especially with us being less popular with the great powers now. In a way, we have become the Ottomans of this timeline. Big, unpopular with its neighbors and with high cultural tension inside. Ironic. The big task was now to get a successful naval landing done without being pushed out by any other great power that might help them. So blitz it is again. I risked it all and started a conflict, not knowing what awaits me. But it turned out that only our recently added friend, France... Oh, this is such a tongue breaker. But it turned out that only our recently added friend, France, was willing to help them. I guess they wanted to have a second round after all the fun we had before. And yes, I see Russia, but they still use line infantry, so they don't count. But honestly, I didn't really have to fight them. I just landed in Italy and waited for some time to pass. This worked out amazingly. Later on, the French were forced to peace out and still had to pay for the Suez Channel. I love this game. With our empire back at its full potential, the time to industrialize has come. We had such a large potential working force and much money to spend thanks to gold mines in our colonies. So I followed the public outcry of my chat to bankrupt our nation with building projects. This of course being the natural way to industrialize in this game. But surprisingly enough, my economy was able to bounce back faster than I could have anticipated. The now endlessly long building queue in combination with a working economy meant that the GDP of the nation exploded. In a good way. After some more necessary investments into our army and navy, we have become #1 great power. Take that, France. They were way too strong in this game, as if Napoleon III would have pulled that off. So, here we are now. The challenges are complete. The nation is in a great state, just ignore that there are no elections. And the living standard is so high, other nations can dream of something like that. I've been Florius, and you have a great day, or afternoon, or night. I don't know when you watch this. By the way, I never showed you America, because in this game, it was way too cursed to show you. There was an American uprising, and out of that, the CSA was birthed. Kind of wild. I mean, it's still a CSA, I guess, you know? And have banned slavery. What? What about the USA? They still have slavery. What is this?